Hi, this is Linda from Linda's Stitchens, and we're going to cover how to create this mini hanging quilt for Valentine's Day. And just so that you know, what's in the picture here is not quite the same as what we're going to actually create. That was my first prototype, but I think you'll get the idea. So we're going to cover a couple of different things, but the first thing I want you to do is actually create a file folder to save everything we're creating. So it's just a suggestion, just do it where you want, but it's create one under your documents, my sonnet, my designs, and call it Valentine mini quilt or something similar, just so that you have a file folder to save everything. I'm not going to go through the whole list of what we're going to learn about. Those you can read in the instructions. The software I used is my sonnet Platinum. I actually used Boxed, but you can do the same thing in subscription. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to dafont.com in order to get the fonts that we want to use. So I'm going to type in here, and the two fonts I want to use is KR Valentines 2006. And I'm doing, oops, 2006. And I'm going to do a search. So this is the one we want, and I'm going to do download. It's going to download into your downloads folder. We're just going to leave it like that for now. Now, the next thing I want to look for is we are going to also look for Almost Valentine. Oops. It helps if I could spell right. Search. That's the one I want, and I want to download it. So those are now down in my downloads folder that I can now open them up and do my to unzip them. So I'm going to go into my folders. They're in my downloads. And it's these two. So I'm going to go and if I'm using Windows 11, so you may have to decide which way it is, but I'm just going to double click. And the one I want is KR Valentines Art TTF. Double click. And there it is. I could actually print it. I don't want to at this point, but I'm going to install it. It already exists on my computer, but that's because it's already there. I'm going to close that one. I'm going to go back. I'm going to pick on the other one. Again, the TTF folder. I'm going to install that, and it's already on my computer because I've been doing these. So, and once they're there, they're actually installed on your computer for your use. So I'm just going to close out of all this. So I'm going to open up my software. I want to choose blank canvas. I'm going to then choose the 240 by 150 hoop, and I want it in natural position. You could also fill it in down here. I just choose it up there. And now what I want to do is just make sure everybody's grid is in the same place. So we're going to go over to the View tab, and we're going to change the size to 10 millimeters if it's not already. Everybody has them set differently, but that's the one we want to make sure we have, and we're going to go to the Letter tab. We're going to go to Font Manager. We're going to come down. Once the font manager is up, you're going to pick on QuickFont. And you're going to get a pop up here. And where I want to do is the very first one we're going to do is the KR Valentine. So I'm going to do this little download, and I'm going to look for KR Valentines 2006. And that's the one I want. And I'm going to just do regular style. I'm not going to do the extended. If you want additional information, you can always go to the help file in order to find everything else. Make sure it's for using in the My Sonnet embroidery system, or if you're using P2, you want it in the P2, but you don't want this one. This one would put it to have you put it to a USB stick to use directly in your machine. This is where we want it. We're going to do next. These are what we're going to show. Now you have different options here, but this is what we want is outline. I'm going to double check my border size. So this stitch length is actually set to a 2. You could do it to a running stitch, but we need it to be a little bit stronger than that. So we're going to do double stitch and leave it at that. The sizes we're going to leave the same, and I'm just going to do next, and it's going to take it a second. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and it's going to be called KR Valentines. I'm going to leave it at my fonts, and this is not an option because I didn't tell it to print there, but I want to print my catalog. And I'm actually going to print it not to my computer, but actually to a PDF file so I can have it for later. I'm going to do PDF. I'm going to do OK. It's going to pull up this folder. Now I already have it there, and I'm just going to hit save. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and replace it. The other thing I want to do at this point is I want to return to start to make another font when I click finish. That way I can do my second font that we're going to use. We're going to do finish. And then the other one I want to do is almost Valentine. So I can put an A in and it'll take me to the top of my list. It's not going to take me all the way where I want it to be, but it'll take me almost Valentine. There it is. I just want to leave it at regular. I want to leave everything else the same. I'm going to do next. This time for the almost Valentine, I'm actually going to change. I'm going to change this one from outline now into satin. I'm going to click on stitch options. And I'm going to change I want to have the density before, and I'm going to do OK. Now remember, the higher the number, the further apart the stitches, so I'm just going to leave it at 4. I'm going to do OK. My font options are set between 12 and 30, and I'm going to leave that just like it is. And I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to do the print catalog again, and it's already set up for going to a PDF. And I'm going to do almost Valentine. And the reason I do that is because I want to be able to see what this looks like. And I'm going to show you that here in a second. So I don't no longer need to return to start to do another one. And I'm just going to hit finish. Okay, so now I actually have them. There's almost Valentine and there's the KR Valentines 2006. And I'm going to close that. So you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to why I printed them to a PDF file. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to go and I'm going to pick up almost Valentine PDF so you can see this, and I'm going to explain this to you a little bit. So when this would print, this would actually give me an idea of where each of my letters were. Now this one's really obvious. So the capital A is here, capital B is here, C. This is what they're going to look like. Now, the one that's not as obvious, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to close this one. I'm going to pick up the other one, and this one's going to be even more difficult to understand. So see how they have pictures? This is actually the capital A, this is the capital B, this is the capital C, and so on. You notice there's a lot that aren't there. So the only thing that's in this particular font are the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Nothing else is there. These are all just going to be regular things. There is one down here, but otherwise it's not going to be anything. But it will always tell me the information. Having this as a catalog, I like having it in my computer so that I can use it at a later date. So I'm going to go back into my software. So I'm back in my software, and if you notice, what's up here is that one that's the KR Valentines, but yours might not show that, so just so that you know. So what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to actually we're going to do the capital D. And if you look at your catalog printout, you can actually see what this is going to look like. And I'm going to do apply. And this is actually capital D on that list. So you can see that it's a little smaller than what we're going to want. And you notice you have green handles, and green handles just means that I can make it larger, smaller, or however, and make some additional changes. So I could actually come in here and do fix the stitches. I could edit my lettering. I could change my handles. I could also change this from a double stitch and change some information about it. Instead of it being a 2.0, I can make it a 1.0, which is really, really tiny. But where I'm going to go is I'm going to go into... I'm going to do a right mouse and I'm going to do edit lettering. And I'm going to change the size. I'm going to leave at 50 because I'm going to make some other change. I'm going to change this width to 160 and the height to 230. And I'm going to do OK. So that just made it larger than what it was. But I need to make some additional changes. So in those additional changes, I need to get rid of this big long jump stitch that's right here, and we're going to insert this so that this part of the flower is going to be green. But in order to do that, I have to select to fix the stitches, because right now this is kind of like that pre-step before there's stitches. I'm going to do a right mouse and I'm going to do fix the stitches. I'm going to go to the modify tab, and see this long jump right here? This is the one we want to get rid of. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to zoom in real quick so I can get really close in here. So it's only one big long stitch. So I can go up here to select stitches up here at the top and click on this little point right here. I've clicked on it once. Now I'm going to click on drag it, and I'm going to move it up to that heart where it goes to. See, it just automatically disappeared. And there's some other little jumps in here. We're going to leave those for now because those are actually the connecting between step to step to step, and we want to leave those for that now. Now I want to separate the flower from the stem. So I'm going to zoom in again. And I need to get up here and I'm going to do point select, and I'm going to start clicking around the stem. Now remember, if you use your control key, it will make it a square. It'll square up your edges a little bit. This is different than when you're in your digitizing because I think it's now the shift key. But you see how I have this. Be very, very careful when you're selecting around here that you're not grabbing something you do not want and that you do have everything you do want. So if you want to zoom in a little bit more here to make sure that you have 100%, see how I have 100% of this? I'm doing that because I want to show you when I go and I actually hit, and I'm going to slide this back a little bit so it's not quite so zoomed in. When I hit my right mouse button, it's going to look like a box, and I've got now this box, and it looks like it's touching part of this and part of this, but it's only paying attention to what it was I clicked around. And I'm going to click on cut, and it's now going to come down here into my overview. I'm going to go to from here. Okay, so from here we're going to go over to the create tab, and then I'm just going to zoom to fit so I see the whole thing. And the reason I'm doing this here, or I can do it in any other tab, just don't do it in the modify, because if you do this next step in the modify tab, it ties them back together, and I want them to be a separate piece. And I'm going to do a control V, which is a paste. And you notice now I have two different things in my film strip. So with those two things in my film strip, I can actually, with this one selected, I can come over here and double click on here and change that to a green. Now I just tend to use these quick colors. You can choose just the standard, and I'm just going to leave it at standard. Pick on a green, and we're going to do OK. So I've now separated those into two different things. Now I want to make sure that this is a group so that when I move one thing, everything goes together. I'm going to do a Control A. That makes it so that they're connected. Over here, do a right mouse, and I say group. So if you notice before it had little dotted lines between them, that meant it was a temporary group. Now it's a full group. And I have it fixed as a group, but they're not combined. If I wanted to see each individual thing, I could still do that. I'm going to come. So now with those grouped, I'm going to do a right mouse button, and I'm going to go and I'm going to do cut. Oops, gone away. It's temporary. It's down here on my clipboard. That's all fine. I'm going to go to the quilt block wizard. I'm going to do a filled quilt block with an inner embroidery, and next. And the shape I want is number 2, and I want to just leave everything there the same. And this is the side A is 150, the height is 240, and I'm going to leave those just like they are. And make sure that include a cut line is not checked, and we're going to do next. I have my picture is showing here, and I'm just going to do a paste, and it's going to paste right in the center, and I'm going to do next. So now what I want to do is I actually need to get so that the outline, this is all going to get quilted stitches. So I actually want this to be different and I want it to be closer to the flowers. So I'm going to drop this down to a 2 millimeters. So see how that changed that a little bit? It's not doing the inside edge of this. I just want it to be on the outside edge. We're going to click next. Oh, but I really don't want it here. I actually want it down here further. I'm going to do back. And I'm going to take, and see how my mouse, when I move my mouse, I've got 4 arrows. I'm going to move this down here. And somewhere down in the center there, I'm going to do next. Automatically going to go to the default of the stippling. And I don't want that. I actually want to do echo. I want to go to options. And I'm going to change this spacing to 15. I'm going to make my stitch length to be a 2.0. You can make it a double stitch if you really want it to be defined. I'm just going to leave it just as a single stitch for right now. I'm going to do next. Now this happens to be pretty close, but you see this little area here? If you see gaps in that little line, I need you to go, and we're going to go backwards once. And we're going to go back, And I'm going to take and I'm going to move this over here to the left just a little bit. Next. This is what I want. I want this to be open at the bottom, and I need this to all be enclosed. But the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to get rid of this area, because this is the area that we're going to put some writing in. So I'm going to hit finish. And now I have it. Now what it's done is it's grouped everything together. And I don't want that. I need to separate some things because I need to make some changes. In the film strip, we're going to come over here and we're going to click on Reveal Groups. So now I have them as separate pieces. The last design is the Echo Quilting, which is the one I want to do. And we're going to do a right mouse, and I'm going to do Edit in Stitch Editor, which is different than the Modify tab, and it lets us do some different things. I'm going to make that larger. All right, so what I want to get rid of is this right here first. So we're going to go, and I'm going to go in Point Select, and following those same things I showed you before, we're going to click around here. Now, if you hold your Shift key, it's different than the other one. Now it's Shift, Shift, and click, and I'm going to click in here, making sure not to get any of the other stitches. I'm going to do a right mouse button, and I'm going to do delete. So that leaves this area for all our writing that we want to do. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to make another change, and I want to separate this from this outside set of stitches. So we're going to go over to the Modify tab, which is within Stitch Editor, and we're going to actually select Design Separator. And then we're going to again use our Shift key, and I'm going to click here, 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 right mouse button, and I'm going to come over here to Home, and I now have two. I know it's hard to see. You could probably see it better on your home screen, but I'm using white so that in our background so we can actually see it. But you see there's two different pieces now. So what I need to do is I want to make sure that the second one is selected, and I want to change the color of this. And it doesn't matter what the color is, so you can just pick. I start just kind of randomly selecting different colors just so that I know I have something totally different, but it's really up to you. Now I want to make sure that resize is selected, because I'm going to change the size of it. Now you can't really see that here, but if this is highlighted, see if I move my mouse, if that's highlighted, it means it's in resize mode. And I wanted to go to Modify Block, and I want to change it to 95. It's just going to shrink it a little bit, and because I have resize selected, it's going to adjust my stitches accordingly. So this particular one is one that's going to hold everything kind of together in the very end. So right now it's just a single stitch, and I want to change it to a double stitch. So I'm going to close the Modify block, and I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to slide my mouse. If you notice my mouse, as I slide over the top of this, it becomes highlighted, and I'm going to make sure that that's highlighted. Click on it, right mouse, and I'm going to convert from a running stitch to a double stitch. And the 2.0 is still fine. I'm going to do OK. So now what's happened is that now stitch is going to be a double stitch instead of a running stitch. So what's really nice about my Sonnet is I can actually just close this now, and all the changes will have applied. I can either do that by going to File and Exit, or I can just use my X in the upper right hand corner, making sure I get the right X. But if you notice now, I have these separate pieces over here in my group, which is all a good thing. So from here, I'm going to start making some more modifications. We're going to go to the Letter tab. We're going to go to Font Manager, and the one I want to pick on is going to be Almost Valentine, which is highlighted there, and I want to actually edit this digitized font. So we're going to do Edit Digitized Font. And what's going to happen is you're going to see each of the letters. Now, if I want to go through each of the letters, I can go through and change all of these. But the only one I want to actually change is the H for Happy, the V for Valentines, and the D for Day. So I'm going to just select the H, which I have here, and So pay attention to the left side. You see this long, this is our film strip, which we always get in digitizing before. This is just a little, it's basically the same thing, and all of these things are still the same as digitizing. It's just we're actually we're going to make some modifications to a font instead of to an embroidery design. We want to zoom into this particular area, so using your favorite method to zoom into there. And I want to get into that heart, because what we're going to do is we're going to make that more of a thinner, instead of that big huge satin which is showing right here. We are going to pick on steps 6, picking on 6, and then we're going to just use our shift key, and then I want you to come all the way down to number 19, which is all going to be that area, and I want you to hit delete. So you notice that that heart has now gone away, and we are now going to make some additional adjustments. I need to do a right mouse to deselect that tool. I'm going to do a right mouse. So I'm going to click on the new step number 6. Oops. And this is part of the actual H. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start deleting some of these points, because I want this to actually, the H to begin right over here. So I'm going to do delete points, and I'm going to start deleting. And if you notice, when I delete a satin stitch, 2 actually go away. Okay, now this is not part of this. This is actually separate. So we're going to eventually get rid of that too. So with that selected, I'm going to do a right. So we currently have delete points selected, and we need to get rid of that. So I'm going to do a right mouse button to select that, because I want to make this a little bit smaller and more of a point. So I'm just going to take in, with delete points no longer selected, I can kind of make that a little smoother, instead of it coming to a blunt end, because I'm going to add this other heart that's over here on the side. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that all we have to do is click now, and we got this set of stitches here, and I need to start deleting points. This is additional stitches we don't need. I'm going to hit delete points and just start clicking until it's now underneath that top part of the H. Okay, right now I'm going to do a select all visible, because before I add this heart over here to the side, I need to make some space. So I'm going to actually move it over. And so with that selected, what I'm going to do is, over here on the right hand side, I can either do a right hand mouse, or I can just click on group up there at the top. So now that becomes a group all on itself. I'm going to go to Insert Superdesign, and I'm going to look for heart and enter. And I now have all these hearts. So the one I want is the one that says 6, borders 2, hearts 2. So I'm going to select that one, and it's going to show up here. And I want to change the size to 15. Select insert. And I'm going to take and I'm going to move this up in the upper left hand side. But you see, okay, with the heart selected, you notice it's kind of rough looking. So I'm going to do a right mouse button, and I'm going to change the stitch length to 1.5, which just makes it a little bit closer and smooths out those stitches just a little bit. Now the other thing I noticed, that I'm right here on the very, very edge, and I'm going to actually click on group, and I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I think it's going to be just fine, but you can play with that. Now I want to grab the H, because you notice it's kind of, the heart is kind of getting taken away from on here. So I'm going to use the H group, and I'm just going to use my mouse button, and I'm going to move it over just a little bit. Actually, a little bit too far. And so now what I want to do is I actually want this heart here to actually stitch where that other heart was. So I'm going to come down here, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select that red that's in that group, and I'm going to hit delete. So now it's part of the blue. And then I'm going to select that triple stitch that's there, and I'm actually going to take it, and I want to slide it up so that it is in position 6, which is where we removed all those other ones. And I'm just going to take it, I'm going to slide it up here. So it should go in front of the satin column. Now you could also use your arrow keys and start moving it up one at a time. But you notice now it's behind here. Now I could actually turn this just a little bit if I wanted to, and not make it quite so square. And I can always come up here and actually look to see what that looks like. That's not too bad. I think I'm going to leave it just like that. So I need to remember to save that. So I'm going to hit save. Now I need to do my next letter. So the next letter is going to be the V for Valentine. So I'm going to do V. I've got the V selected. I'm going to zoom into the heart area again. And I'm going to click on step number 3, which is part of the heart. And then I'm going to right mouse click, hold down and control. I have to read my instructions sometimes. Okay, I've got number 3 selected, and I'm going to hold my shift key down, and I'm going to click all the way down to number 10, and that's going to get rid of most of that heart. I'm going to just hit, I can hit delete here or just hit my delete key. But you notice there's some parts and pieces that I need to now get rid of. So we're going to come up here and we're going to select step number 8. Oh, I have to right mouse click, get rid of my steps. How come? So I'm going to click on delete points and I'm going to start getting rid of points here. Again, remember it's going to kind of do this both sides at the same time. And it's going to move it up. And I could get rid of one more. It's really going to kind of be up to you, but that's okay. I'm going to right mouse button to remove that so it's now in edit points. And I actually want to move these a little bit closer together so it kind of smooths out that edge just a little bit. But I need to also get rid of all of these stitches. So I'm going to click on step number 7 and I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to do step number 6. And then I need to do delete points. So I need to start getting rid of this, this. So it moves it up, but oh, gee, there's another one. So we're going to do step number 2. And delete points is still selected. We're going to start getting rid of all these. And that endpoint automatically pops into place. Oh, there's another one I need to get rid of. So we're going to pick on step number 3. And I need to get rid of some more. Do a select all visible and group it. Insert Superdesign. The heart should still be selected. The size is still there. I'm going to do insert. And I'm going to move it up here so I can actually see it. I'm going to do a right mouse button. And I'm going to change that to 1.5. So it smooths it out just a little bit. Now I need to close this out. So I'm going to hit my V group. And you notice I want to kind of get this kind of move over to the right a little bit. And I'm going to just use the arrow keys on my keyboard. And I could drag it if I wanted to, but I'm just going to use my arrow keys. And I can always adjust this down just a little bit. Okay. So now what I want to do is I need to do a couple more changes here. Step number 8, which is the color, I'm going to do a delete. To either use the delete key on your keyboard or the delete that's up here at the top. Select the stitch that's number 8. Now, again, like I said, you can always do this, and we want to get it up into position 7. So now it's in position 7. Now, I think I'm going to leave it just like this. I could also still rotate it just a little bit. Don't forget to save it. And the only other letter we need to do now is the D. So I'm going to do the D. I'm going to zoom into that heart. I'm going to pick on step number 3, hold my shift key, and go all the way down to 16. So I need to use my down arrow here, and I'm going to go down to 16, and I'm going to hit delete. Again, you can either use your delete key or you can use the delete up the top. Right mouse button to deselect the tool. Step number 3, which is those satin stitches. I'm going to hit delete points. Again, I want to start getting rid of some things. And now I have that here. I'm going to do a right mouse to get rid of the delete. And I'm going to kind of move these two kind of closer together so they kind of look a little bit better. There's still some stitches showing, so we're going to pick on step number 2, and I'm going to do delete points, and I'm going to start deleting some of those. Okay. So picking on stitch number 6, or design element number 6, I'm coming down here towards the bottom, and I kind of want to smooth this out a little bit. So I'm going to do edit points, and I got rid of my delete points, and I'm just going to kind of smooth this out just a little bit, just so it looks like it's actually coming into the D itself. The bottom, that loop part of the D. It's not a big deal. I just decided to do that just so you could see how you could move around and do some more. Select all visible and group that D. I'm going to zoom out so you can actually see this again. And I'm going to do insert a Superdesign. That's still selected. I'm going to do insert. I'm going to go, I'm going to move that over here so it's up towards the D, the top of the D, and I'm going to zoom in again. I'm going to do a right mouse. Did I already do that? Nope, 1.5. It just smooths out the heart. We're going to select the D group because we need to move it. You notice that needs to be moved, so we're going to go up and I'm going to select the D, and I'm going to move it over a little bit. Again, using my arrow keys. I'm going to come down here, get rid of step number 23. I'm going to pick on this one, and I'm going to slide it up so that it is in position 3. Again, you could use your up arrows if you wanted to. I'm just going to go up. So it's going to be in what would be stitch number 3. So it'd be above the 3 as it exists right now. I can rotate this a little bit, just making sure that it is going to stay within the confines of the area. Okay, so I've now got that selected and I've got that's done. We selected our save, so now we can actually close the font digitizing, and I'm just going to use the X up here. You could also go to File and Exit. X. And let's then now we can close down the font manager. So close. The font that right now should be almost Valentine, which is good. Okay, so the words I want, and I want to make sure nothing is selected before I start doing this. If anything is selected, it will automatically. So if this was selected, it's automatically going to put Happy Valentine's Day down here. And I don't want that. I want it to be in the center. So I'm going to come up here. I've got almost Valentine's selected. I'm going to do Happy. Oops. And I'm going to do a enter Valentines. And I noticed that when I added day also, it didn't quite put it where I wanted it, and I needed to mess with it a little bit too much, so I just left that separate. So the size I want is 18. The gap is -7. And the gap means how far apart are the letters from each other. Now the other thing I want to do is my spacing, and I want it to be 1.4. So the spacing is between Happy and Valentine's. So it's normally a little bit closer than normal, and I just decided I liked it just a little bit apart. The other thing is here, I want to make sure this is set for horizontal. And now I can move that into place. And I kind of use this line as a guideline, but I just kind of want to get it somewhere up there. And now what I want to do is do the same thing with day, D-A-Y. And it's okay that it's going to pop. I'm going to make sure nothing is selected. I'm going to hit day, and I'm going to move it up into place. Now I found sometimes I kind of wanted this to turn just a little bit. It depends on where this line showed, because I want to make sure when I stitch this out, this is actually going to stitch out on just the fabric and the stabilizer. My quilting I want to do, because we're going to change some orders of things. The quilting part of it I actually want to do in the fabric with the batting. So I want Happy Valentine's Day to be like that, but it doesn't look as crooked when you turn it as you think it would. So I am going to make sure that Happy Valentine's is selected. I'm going to use my Control key and select day, because I want to make sure that they're lined up right underneath each other. I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to pick on alignment, and I'm going to pick on horizontal alignment, align center. So now they are centered upon each other, and that's exactly what I want. I'm going to do, I've got them, you notice that they're not really a group yet. They're just kind of a temporary group, which is fine. I want to make sure that they are actually together now. So I'm going to do my right mouse button, and I'm going to do group. I want this to actually stitch first. So I'm going to pick on that group, and I want to slide that up to the very top. Now, there's a couple ways I can do this. I can actually choose to move it. I want it to stitch first, so I'm going to select stitch first, and it's going to move it all the way up to the top. Now, the next thing I need to do is when you do this, you have the basting option in the Viking machines to add a basting stitch around the outside edge, but we're actually going to do that here. So I'm going to go to the Frames tab, and I'm going to pick on Border, which is this guy right here. And I'm going to, the margin, I want to change the margin to 1 millimeter, so it's just inside the hoop. I want a straight stitch. I want the stitch type I want is a running stitch, and I want it to be 6.0, which is a basting stitch, so it's easy to come out. So we're going to do OK. Make sure nothing is selected. If something was selected, it's going to put the border around whatever you have selected. But I want it to be 1 millimeter in from the outside edge of the hoop. So I want nothing selected. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to change this to a yellow just so that it's completely separate and totally different than everything else. Again, I want this actually to stitch out first. Again, I'm going to put it above Happy Valentine's Day. So I've got that one, number 7 selected, and I move it to the top. That way, the way it's going to stitch out is it's going to put a basting stitch to hold our top fabric down on our stabilizer. It'll do Happy Valentine's Day, then it will do the rest of this. But we're going to do some more changes here. We are going to go to the Superdesign tab because we're going to add a couple of more little flowers or little hearts, and I'm going to type in here, and I'm going to do heart, enter. And it's again the same heart that we were using before, so it would be 6-border 2, hearts 2, and we're going to select that. And the size this time we want it to be 20 millimeters. And we're going to hit apply. And paying attention to your mouse, watch your mouse and make sure that you have that double arrows, and we're going to kind of move this off to the left a little bit, or to the right, I'm sorry. I'm going to do a right mouse button, and I'm going to go to Properties, and I want to put a little angle on it. So I'm going to change the angle to 20, and I'm going to do OK. And kind of move it into place. Now I want to do as a Control D, which is actually a duplicate. If you do a copy and a paste, it puts it right on top. But by doing the Control D, which is paste, or duplicate, it puts it off to the side a little bit. Again, I need it to turn a little bit. I'm going to do a right mouse button, Properties, and I'm going to change this into 340. I'm going to do OK. Now I want these two to be right close together. Now you could be kind of different if you wanted to, but I'm going to make sure that they're right across from each other. So I'm going to hold my Control key and click on number 8. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to do Alignment. Click on Alignment, Vertical Alignment this time, and I can do Align Bottom. It doesn't really matter. I just want them so that they're the same. And move that kind of into place. So now I know that they're even with each other on either side a day. And I want to kind of make sure that they're kind of in the center here, which is all okay. So these two hearts are now selected. We're going to hit Group so that they are now a group. So we're going to slide them up so they're right underneath the words. So one of the things I want to do is, because the way Configure works, it could change the way things are. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Configure. And I want to change my default settings for this. And I'm going to click on export, and I'm going to do combine color sort and optimize my stitch length. Optimize stitch length is not as big a deal, but make sure that color sort and combine are not selected for this purpose, because I want some things to make sure that they stitch and they stay in the order that they're supposed to. Okay. Now I can watch it stitch out. Now, don't forget, we're going to do our save as, and you're going to save it. Oops, let's get in the right place. Valentine mini quilt. I can actually save it as a VP4, which allows me to make changes at a future date, which is really, really important for some things. So I'm going to actually leave this, and I'm going to call it, I'm going to select my Valentine's Day, and I'm going to do save. Yep, I know it's already there. And then I'm going to do my export. My export, I want to make sure I change it to whatever one I want. These are already unselected because I have unselected them in configure, and because I need it to stitch out in a specific order. I don't want things to get messed up and actually start stitching out of order that I want them to. So I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to just do cancel for that, just so that you have it. But that's basically all there is to it. I hope that works, and I hope you stitch them out and actually show me copies.